moment's a gift, oh it's so beautiful. Got my dreams in my pocket, everything feels right. With laughter in my heart, I'm free like a bird. Clouds may come, but I won't let them stay. I'll keep shining my light, chase the gray away. In the ups and downs, I find my way. With love as my guide, I'll dance through the night. So here's to the moments, let them roll. Living life fully, it fills up my soul. Ta-da-da-da-da, come sing along. In this beautiful life we all belong. Life's good, I feel wonderful. Every moment's a gift, oh it's so beautiful. Got my dreams in my pocket, everything feels right. With laughter in my heart, I'm free like a bird. Clouds may come, but I won't let them stay. I'll keep shining my light, chase the gray away. In the ups and downs, I find my way. With love as my guide, I'll dance through the night. So here's to the moments, let them roll. Living life fully, it fills up my soul. Ta-da-da-da-da, come sing along. In this beautiful life we all belong. Beautiful life, we all belong. Life's good and I'm loving every single moment of it. Every breath feels like a gentle kiss, so infinite. The sun is shining brighter, painting skies with bliss. This heart of mine is open wide, nothing feels amiss. Feels like I'm reliving my dream life once again. Every step I take feels lighter, free from all the pain. The colors of the world have found a sweeter hue. Oh, the magic in the air, I see it shining through. Yay, honey, isn't today beautiful? You see the way the flowers bloom, the way the wind sets us free. Hold my hand, let's dance beneath the endless sky. Today's a masterpiece, and we're the reason why. Life's good and I'm loving every single part of it. A melody of joy, a rhythm I can't quit. With every beat my soul just sings and takes flight. Oh, in this dream I'm living, everything feels right. Today beautiful, you see, the way the flowers bloom, the way the wind sets us free. Hold my hand, let's dance beneath the endless sky. Today's a masterpiece, and we're the reason why. Life's good and I'm loving every single part of it. A melody of joy, a rhythm I can't quit. With every beat my soul just sings and takes flight. Oh, in this dream I'm living, everything feels right. Somewhere in the parallel universe, we're together, honey. We're together, honey. We're together. Our love is better, stronger, sweeter and funny. In that world there's no pain or goodbyes, just the stars, the moon and your eyes. We laugh and dream where the night meets the dawn, living in a world where nothing feels wrong. Hand in hand we wander free, in that place where it's just you and me. But here in this life things aren't the same, chasing dreams, playing different games. I love you, yes, but I need to find a better version of me in my own mind. Sometimes I wonder if you feel the same. When the nights are quiet, do you whisper my name? Do you look at the stars and see my face, wishing for that parallel place? Somewhere in the universe love never dies. We're not torn by truth or tangled in lies. We're infinite, unbreakable, bold and true, a love that no time can undo. Yet in this world I feel the pull to grow, to learn, to be whole. I can't ignore the path I see,